Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca. Let's try it again. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Rebecca Dorge. I'm your new provost. Applause, yes. Thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I want to thank everyone for being so welcoming to me. I very much appreciate it. It is my absolute honor to introduce the president of Rensselaer Polytech Institute, the 19th president, Dr. Martin Schmidt.
All righty. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the fall town meeting. This is actually my third town meeting as president, but who's counting? And in preparing for today, I wasn't quite sure exactly what to highlight since it seemed that so much has happened since we last had a town meeting in this room. What I've decided to do is highlight a few areas in my remarks today, and of course hope that in the question and answer period we can discuss topics that are of particular interest to you. However, I feel I need to open by acknowledging that we are not in a bubble here in Troy, and the events taking place outside our campus can have profound impact on our community. The war in the Ukraine continues on, and at times it feels that we have become anesthetized to the violence and loss of life. At home, I think we all worry about the erosion of our democratic system of government and have concerns about the impact of a government shutdown. And then this weekend, we saw the horrific news from Israel. The terror attack in Israel this weekend comes after years of mounting conflict in the region. And frankly, our hearts ache for the people of that region and our community members who have ties to that area. We have community members who are deeply impacted by this tragedy, and we have reached out to offer support. These recent events have been traumatizing, and you should know we understand and we care. And for anyone who needs support or just needs an ear, please take advantage of the support services we offer through the Student Health Center and through the Employee Assistance Program. The world outside of RPI may feel very uncertain right now, but one thing remains steadfast, which is our commitment to each other. So let me now share with you my thoughts about RPI as we move into this fall semester. I'd like to first talk about some additions and changes that we've made at the leadership level at RPI, as well as additions to the faculty and staff. And then I want to continue something I started in the spring, which is to give you a sense of how we are doing financially. This is an area which I think is important for me to keep you informed about, since our financial performance is really critical to our overall goal of returning RPI to a healthy size in terms of people. I'll next talk to you about our strategic planning process and highlight some recent good news in the area of chips and quantum. Part of our strategic planning needs to be a plan to start the renewal of our physical campus, and I'll comment on that. I'll end with an update on our Middle States accreditation planning, the community climate surveys, and a few thoughts for the fall thus far. Let me start by introducing the newest members of my leadership team. You've already met our new provost, Dr. Rebecca Dorge, who comes to us from Carnegie Mellon University, where she was the Glenn DeVries Dean of the Mellon College of Science and a member of the Dietrich College of Humanities and Social Sciences Department of Statistics and Data Science and the Mellon College of Sciences Department of Biological Sciences. Our new Associate Vice President and Director of Athletics, Dr. Christy Bowers, who comes to us from Boston University, where she served as Senior Associate Athletic Director and Senior Woman Administrator. And our new Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer for Institutional Impact, R. May Lee, who comes into this newly created role after teaching entrepreneurship in our School of Architecture and from NYU, where as Vice Chancellor, she spearheaded the development of NYU Shanghai and Shanghai Tech University, where she was the inaugural Dean of the School of Entrepreneurship and Management. Now, I happen to know that Dr. Bowers is on the road, but please welcome them all to RPI. Now, as you also are aware, I suspect, we have also made some additional changes to the offices at RPI. As we work to foster major partnerships and move the amazing ideas on this campus out to have impact in the world, we've created a new office of strategic alliances and translation that is led by Institute Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering, Jonathan Dordick. I was pleased to see this as one of the top recommendations that came out of our strategic planning by several groups. We also announced very recently that we are moving student life and enrollment management into the provost office. This was a decision I made after considering the structure of our current portfolios and looking for opportunities to realign activities for better outcomes. I anticipate that we'll continue to make some modest restructuring of the portfolios, but this is certainly a major one. I am extremely grateful for the support of Peter Konwerski and John Wexler, and I think we all believe and expect that this will drive greater integration of our academic and student life activities. As I also shared with you that in the course of the discussion of these changes, Peter let me know that he has been contemplating a change after so many years in student life leadership, and he has decided that this will be his last academic year as Vice President for Student Life, giving us the time to ensure a seamless integration of student life with the Provost's office, but also to explore other opportunities for Peter to continue to serve RPI. Peter, we're all deeply indebted to the tremendous service. We know that the job you hold is an incredibly challenging one, a 24/7 role, constantly on call, constantly worrying about the health and wellness of our student body, and I just want to personally thank you for all that. So in addition to these structural changes, we're forming teams to organize ourselves and be more coordinated, and I'll talk about the work of the CHIPS team in a little bit. But now let's talk about faculty and staff. When we met in the spring, I pointed out that when I arrived at RPI, we were effectively about 80% of our historic size in terms of faculty, tenured and tenure track, and staff. In my listening tour, it was very clear that this led to many feeling stretched to their limit. For that reason, as I shared in the spring, our 5-year financial plan is focused on restoring our faculty and staff numbers. And I'm pleased to say that we have hired 33 new tenured and tenure track faculty this fall. These faculty will add strength to our research focus, but they will also begin to fill critical vacancies in our departments across the campus. We've also already hired 3 tenured or tenure track faculty who will start next fall and are currently recruiting 27 additional faculty for next fall across all 5 schools. Our fiscal year 2024 budget also gives us the resources to raise our staff numbers to 1,279, just short of our historic average, and 242 staff positions higher than in the fall of 2021. I know that hiring this many people has been a lot of work for the faculty and staff. I also had a chance to learn this summer from some of the department heads of the challenges in hiring faculty regarding startup packages in space, but also the excitement that the department heads felt in seeing this new blood come to the campus and in selling RPI to them. Our department, Maine, was the winner this term in terms of faculty hiring, having added 4 that started this fall and more to come. But Antoinette Maniotti, and Antoinette, are you with us? Not sure, okay. She also did share with me the challenges of recruiting women faculty. And I'm sure those challenges, albeit different, exist in recruiting faculty that bring other forms of diversity to RPI. With respect to women faculty, I can say that I remain optimistic that we will address one of the pain points, namely childcare. Last academic year, I shared that we have plans to create a childcare facility on campus. Those plans continue, and we are currently in the process of securing the funding to begin the construction of the facility. But I can assure you it is a priority for me. Perhaps smaller, but also important, Ernie Katzwinkle assures me that we'll have feminine hygiene products in the campus bathrooms very soon. We're also prioritizing the well-being of our staff members. One of the things we heard loud and clear from this community is the desire for a better flexible work policy. The Division of Human Resources has been soliciting input from each department and portfolio on a series of possible designs, and various groups have begun a trial implementation. The goal is for the university to provide a framework and principles for each portfolio to apply as appropriate to their staff, and we expect to learn from each other over time. So let me now give you a few highlights from our fiscal year 2023 financial results. And I want to specifically thank Eileen for all the steadfast work she does to keep on tap, and her team to keep on top of our financial situation. The operating budget for last year was balanced. Total revenues for last year were below budget by $4.2 million. Now, to put that in perspective, our total revenues are approximately $440 million annually. So that $4.2 million revenue that was below budget is about 1% of our total budget. However, the most significant variance was in net tuition revenue, which were $16.5 million below budget, with undergraduate net tuition experiencing the greatest variance of $9.7 million. This was due to lower than expected upper class retention and transfer student enrollments, and we did not see additional net tuition revenue from the large freshman class last year because we provided more aid than anticipated for this class. Moving forward, we need to continue to work on affordability, as well as focusing on improving retention and transfer student pathways. The tuition losses we experienced were partially offset by larger gift revenue. And we balanced the budget by first having lower expenses than budgeted, and second, by increasing the use of our cash reserves. On the investment side, our endowment experienced a 10.7% return for the fiscal year and now sits at $924.3 million. As I mentioned in the spring, due to market volatility in the prior year, our defined benefit pension payment was larger than anticipated at $17.4 million. And we made the decision to fund the $11.5 million overage from cash reserves and not from the operating budget. Fortunately, we do not anticipate a similar market-induced change in the budgeted pension payments for this year. And lastly, the pension plan investments benefited from a 9% return and stand at $233.4 million for the fiscal year. And I'll close on finances by saying that our long-term debt is $629.8 million, which decreased by $24.5 million, reflecting the impact of continued principal repayments. When you look year over year, revenue grew only 2% this current year, while expenses grew by 7%. This is a combination of our investments to grow, planning, as well as the impact of inflation. Overall, with the exception of the pension increase, we largely had results that we would have expected. So I'm pleased with that, and we feel we're moving forward in a positive direction. But the current year does present some unique challenges, given the seeming dysfunction in Washington and the international conflicts that could have a ripple effect on our operations, most perhaps notably inflation. In addition, we anticipate seeing tuition revenues flatten as we invest, and we see cost escalations from inflation. For that reason, we have to continue to watch things carefully and stay prepared to act should financial challenges materialize. And I want to make sure that we keep you constantly appraised of this, and one of the things we hope to do is provide you with reports that are a more complete summary of some of these financial statements, because I think it's important for the entire community to have a sense of how we're doing as an institution, including financially. Having said all that, I will also say that I've begun to focus much more on my attention on opportunities outside that can bring new resources to the campus. I'll talk about one, which is in the area of CHIPS in a moment, but I also want to point out that I'm finding that many of our alumni who have the capacity to help us are expressing great enthusiasm for where they see our ability to go. And I'll be devoting much attention over the next several years to connect these alumni to opportunities where they can help us, just as Curtis Bream has in quantum computing. So let me now talk about the strategic planning. As you know, we are in the process of developing a new strategic plan to be released during our bicentennial next year, titled Rensselaer Forward. The plan will be organized around 5 key themes: education, research, translation, regional engagement, and a welcoming and inclusive community. Our working groups for each area have provided their final reports, which we have posted to my website today. Please add your comments to the idea bank to help us formulate a consolidated plan. While we may not be able to respond to all the ideas posted, I can promise you that the working groups have reviewed all the ideas. As I said in my note to the community today, over the next several months, we will be integrating the reports of the working groups into one strategic plan document, which we'll share. But we haven't been waiting for that report to be done to move on some key areas. So for example, our CHIPS team of Vice President for Research Robert Hull, Dean of Engineering Shekhar Gardi, the Provost, first Mary Simone, and now Rebecca Dorsch, and myself have been steering RPI towards regional and national leadership as the United States seeks to restore domestic semiconductor manufacturing and innovation in the wake of the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022. Last month, in one of the first major CHIPS Act awards, the Department of Defense announced that the Northeast Regional Defense Technology Hub, or what we call NORDTech, will be one of only 8 innovation hubs it is creating focused on lab-to-fab translations, helping to prototype new innovations with potential military uses. RPI is one of the 5 core partners in NORDTech, along with the State University of New York, Cornell, IBM, New York Creates. Together, this group will receive $40 million in the first year to create the infrastructure and processes for NORDTech. Of the 8 hubs funded nationwide, our proposal received the highest funding level of them all, which I believe is a reflection of the hard work of the entire team. And I particularly want to call out the work that both Shekhar and Robert did to get us to this point. But wait, there's more. RPI is also a partner in a new Micron TEL National Science Foundation Upwards program. This program is bringing together 6 universities in the United States and 5 universities in Japan, which is also trying to reestablish a domestic semiconductor manufacturing industry. Together, we will focus on memory-centric research as well as curriculum development and finding ways to encourage women to enter the semiconductor field. The CHIPS Act also enabled the NSF's Future of Semiconductors, or FUSE program, which supports a holistic co-design approach to both fundamental research and education and workforce training. RPI Professor Daniel Gall is lead investigators on a project recently awarded one of these highly competitive grants. At RPI, we are also in the process of establishing our first physical presence in Albany Nanotech, the premier microelectronics prototyping facility in the nation. If you want to interact daily with the most influential people in the semiconductor industry, and to help shape the national microelectronics agenda, being in Albany at that facility is critical. And so having a physical presence there with faculty, staff, and researchers doing some of their work over there, we felt was very important, and we're excited to be doing that. We're also leading in workforce development for the CHIPS Act, since talent is truly the limiting factor as the U.S. tries to achieve its economic and national security goals surrounding semiconductors. As just one example, we are launching a new Master of Science degree in semiconductor technology. We're also addressing our own higher ed workforce challenges. The fact that the U.S. share of global semiconductor manufacturing declined in recent decades, so did the number of U.S. faculty focusing on mainstream semiconductor technology. Fortunately, we have enormous technical expertise in industry in this region, and we are taking full advantage of it. Last year, RPI offered a hugely popular elective course called Topics in Microelectronics that was co-taught by RPI faculty and a team of industry experts from global foundries. The class was so successful that this year 10 companies are participating, and we're hiring professors of practice, the most recent one from Global Foundries. This is an important point because this is about the only place in the United States where a university like RPI can draw on that kind of talent to leapfrog and get this curriculum developed. We're also helping our regional partners with workforce development. For example, RPI and Hudson Valley Community College have launched the Semiconductor Microelectronics Scholars Program together. This is a program for associate's degree students at HVCC designed to attract new students to the field and to create pathways for them to industry or further education. The first class of these semiconductor scholars are now being mentored by RPI faculty and industry partners and working on research at RPI. We think bringing people from community colleges onto this path will help to diversify the pipeline of talent in semiconductor research and manufacturing. And this is a model that could be scaled to other community colleges around the state and the nation. So I think what I wanted to share with you is the very intense focus we're having on what I would characterize as trying to catch a wave. And that wave is the massive investment that the federal government is making in this area and making sure that RPI can capture that wave and take advantage of it in strengthening us. But beyond semiconductors, we've also made important announcements in June regarding quantum computing. In a few days, we're going to hold a virtual groundbreaking for the IBM RPI Quantum Computational Center. RPI will be the first university in the world to house an IBM Quantum System 1. While IBM has made deep investments in research and manufacturing for quantum computing, RPI faculty and students will now explore its most promising potential applications. These areas might include drug discovery, modeling and predicting new materials, and financial risk modeling. This is an enormous opportunity for this region and the businesses in the region. And thanks to the support of Curtis Preem, Vice Chair of our Board of Trustees and a co-founder of NVIDIA, whose GPU chips are accelerating artificial intelligence, we're also launching the Curtis Preem Quantum Constellation, with which we will hire faculty leaders in quantum computing. The quantum computer will be housed in the beautiful chapel that is the Voorhees Computer Center, beneath 4 stained glass windows honoring the first 4 doctors of the Latin Christian Church. Now, John Kolb, engaged our de facto campus historian, John engaged our former campus chaplain, Father Ed, to understand more about these doctors on the stained glass windows. And in Father Ed's words, and I quote, "The light of the world will pass through their images to fall upon this magnificent new machine. And the wonders to be discovered and discerned in this space will in turn shine their own light out into the world around us, perhaps changing it for the better for centuries yet to come." Pretty inspiring stuff. But it's not all about chips and quantum. In September, Governor Hochul announced a $9 million state investment that will promote the development of sustainable, New York-made textiles using locally sourced materials. RPI was selected to lead this new $9 million New York Fashion Innovation Center. So clearly, as we enter our 3rd century, RPI will be viewed as the fashion icon of the STEM-centric institutions. Although Mrs. Schmidt would likely point out that the president's wardrobe needs work. Let me now talk about our campus buildings. We have decided, with the board's support, to get started on an overall capital renewal plan to make the best possible use of our physical resources and prioritize our needs for the future. As a nearly 200-year-old institution, we have many iconic buildings that help to make this campus truly beautiful. Unfortunately, some of them are also the most significant examples of deferred maintenance on campus. We are currently exploring whether one or several of these buildings could be used as a new home for our computing activities. This will be paced by our ability to raise money for the renovations, but I think it is important that we get started in this planning process, which is likely to take place over multiple decades on this campus. Our focus is to look at buildings which are relatively underutilized, but in major need of renovations. Ricketts and the 87 gym are good examples of that. The challenge is to identify spaces for the current uses of the buildings so that we can do a comprehensive renovation of the building. We'll be sure to keep you updated on this, but I think it's important that we get this multi-decade renewal of the campus started. And I dare to say that I aspire to see RPI look like a construction site for the next 20 years, because it means we're investing in our future. Work continues on our reaccreditation efforts for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education. Accreditation is required for universities and their students to receive federal funding. It is a 2.5-year process, and we are on schedule. Currently, 80 faculty, staff, and students are working hard to gather, analyze, and report on evidence demonstrating that the Institute is in full compliance with the Commission's 7 standards and requirements of affiliation. And my thanks to all of those working on this. It is tireless work, I know. The standards work groups will submit their chapters to the core steering committee by January 31st, 2024. Next winter and spring, the core steering committee co-chairs, Professor Emily Liu, head of our Industrial Systems and Engineering Department, and Dr. Keith Moo Young, our Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Education, will integrate all of the chapter reports into one cohesive document for circulation to the Rensselaer community for your input, with the goal of completing reaccreditation during 2025. Let me talk about the climate surveys. As you may remember, last fall we released the excellent analysis of the 2021 climate survey of our faculty and staff by the Climate Survey Task Force, co-led by Dr. Deepak Vashish, Director of the Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies, and Pamela Smith, Acting Vice President for Strategic Communications and External Relations. Their recommendations have helped to steer a lot of what we've done over the last year. Last spring, we conducted a student climate survey. We will soon be releasing the results and recommendations arising from it, as well as sharing the data with the students for their own analysis. Moving forward, we intend to conduct climate surveys every other year and publish them to the community. I believe these surveys have a lot of value as a window to what the community is thinking and to what the leadership team and I are doing well as what we could do better on. Now for an update on the bicentennial. As you know, next year we celebrate our 200th birthday. And I will say many institutions spend 3 or 4 years planning for a bicentennial. Well, not RPI. We're gonna get it done in 6 months. It's been a stretch, and I appreciate all the hard work that everyone's put into that. But this weekend, we'll unveil the bicentennial logo. And we'll kick off a poll to select our bicentennial tagline. Stay tuned to learn how to cast your vote. So let me just end with a few fun notes. We had several terrific student career fairs this fall. The annual NSBE SHIP Career Fair brought record numbers of companies to RPI. And I was really pleased because I received multiple unsolicited feedback from employers who were very excited about the students they met. So for our staff and faculty, you should feel proud of what you have done in helping these students. And for our students, thanks for representing RPI so well. Our athletes also had a very successful student-athlete career networking fair. And speaking of athletes, to name a few accomplishments, our men's cross-country team is ranked in the top 10 in the nation for Division III, and women's soccer is off to its best start since 2002. And while last season, our women's ice hockey team went 0-6 before winning their first game, this year, after 6 games, the last 2 on the road, they're undefeated. And one more thing. As many of you know, last year I met with a number of students early in the year to hear how things were going. One of the top areas of frustration was the shuttle system. Now, I'm not sure if Gabriel Jacoby Cooper is with us today. He's a regular attendee of these meetings, but I want to call him out because Gabriel Jacoby Cooper was leading a team in Arcos to develop a better way for students to track the shuttles on campus. I was thrilled to see an article in the Poly posted on September 27th entitled, "Shuttle Tracker Tracks Shuttles Better Than Ever." So earlier in September, I met with a number of undergraduate student leaders to hear what was top of mind for them this year. The first topic we covered was parking. And if you park in the north lot, you know why. So Gabriel, I'd like to ask if Arcos can create a parking tracker. But if not, maybe with the current shuttle tracker, we can all leave our cars at home and take the shuttle. So let me close by saying that I do not mean to minimize the challenges we face. I could say with all honesty that with every day, I am more optimistic for our future together. There will be bad days, bad weeks, and maybe even bad semesters. But I believe our future is bright, and Lynn and I look forward to continuing this journey with all of you. And with that, let me now open it to only easy questions. And they like it when I call on people, so just raise your hand and I couldn't possibly have answered all the questions. Yeah, you're supposed to say that. Come on, there's got to be a question. Great. Sasha.
No, I promise it's an easy one. Just clarification this time. You mentioned with regards to chips that RPI will be a group of 5 institutions to receive an funding of $42 million for the first year to spend on development of the chips. Is it for the $41 million, is it for RPI only, for the entire pool? If so, for the entire pool, what is the portion that RPI gets?
Yeah, it's not public yet, but it's $40 million for the entire team. We will have more than our fractional percentage of that amount. So we've done very well with that. But I don't think yet, Robert, we've reported what that number is.
We'll have the big party when the news comes out.
My boss says I can't tell you. Other questions? This is a shy group. Yes.
So the annual 2020 free security report that was published by Public Safety showed a sharp increase in sexual violence on campus. Are there any plans to bring back the bystander intervention program, or if not, how does the administration plan to address this issue?
Yeah, so I don't know if, Ernie, if you want to, I might give you an opportunity to share what we know about these numbers. The one thing I would say about those numbers is those include all reports, but not ones that have necessarily been investigated or filed a formal complaint. So it's hard to say exactly what sits behind that. We had an anomalously low year prior, so there's sort of that to take into account. And I think that's probably what I mostly would want to say, but Ernie, do you want to add anything?
I don't have anything more to really say to that, but 2 years ago, I think the number was 4. Last year was, I think, 2 maybe. So it was an anomaly, a low blip. So, and you got to realize that those aren't investigated numbers. Those are just as reported. So if the investigation was done and it showed that there wasn't any incident, we still don't change the numbers.
And you asked about the bystander intervention. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody, Peter, did you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I can just add, this is a great example of student leadership. I met with the chair of the Student Life Committee, I think on Thursday or Friday, and that's actually an opportunity. We talked about a partnership where how can we partner to advance the education around bystander intervention, which includes a lot of areas, includes Title IX, includes bias, includes alcohol, hazing, so we want to work closely with our student leaders and we want to work closely with students in general. There are a lot of offices in student life that do that work, but we do want to do it in partnership because we think it'll be more successful and effective if we deliver kind of in tandem. So, great question though.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave you with the impression that we're taking it lightly, but trying to unpack the information to figure out what's actionable in it is, I think, the challenge. But thank you for the question. That wasn't easy, but it was okay.
Hello. What is related to security that you can talk about, general security in the campus? Because last week, unfortunately, my bike was stolen. I heard about 3 other incidents like that in the same morning, and looks like that no reports were done about that. I tried to reach out the campus security and the Tri-Police. Looks like the Tri-Police was not really caring about anything that was happening, same as in the public safety here. So there's some plan to increase the security inside the campus, because all of that happened inside the campus.
Oh, it happened inside?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if any of the team want to comment on that, but if not, we'll follow up. I wasn't aware of that. Anybody? Okay. Oh, Vadim, you're here. Good. You should introduce yourself, Vadim.
My name is Vadim. I'm Vadim Thomas. I'm the AVP for Public Safety and Emergency Management. I'm also very good at chasing people who steal bikes. And so I understand that, I know the incident you're referring to. We're able to actually identify the individual who's been stealing these bikes via our camera system, and we're working with Troy Police Department to take action against this individual. Unfortunately, it's not in our jurisdiction to be able to take any kind of prosecutorial steps forward or anything like that. But we've identified him, and hopefully we can keep this individual off the campus.
Thanks, Vadim.
Yeah.
And thanks for the question. Others? Yeah.
Will the renewed energy in quantum computing and chips be reflected in our bicentennial celebrations in any way?
Oh, almost certainly. You know, I think when we think about the bicentennial, it's a moment to reflect on the past, but to think about our future. And clearly those are part of our future. And so, and as we roll that into the strategic plan, absolutely. But you know, while you raise the question, I think what's exciting to me about us having this quantum computer on the campus is everybody can access it. Now, John Kolb is going to cringe when I say this, but I know there's already been work to integrate access to the computer into some of our classes. We had, I think, 40 people went on fairly short notice to take a quantum computing crash course that IBM offered. Initially, they told us we could have 10 slots. John, being the consummate negotiator, got us 40. And that group of 40 was students, faculty, staff from across disciplines. And I think that's the key thing, is that this is not really a quantum computer that advances computer science at RPI. It's a quantum computer that helps us think about how this new tool could transform all of the disciplines on our campus. And I think that's going to be the exciting part of it. But thanks for the question. Karen.
Thanks. I was really happy to get all the details in the update, and I wanted to get back to the lower expected numbers for upperclassmen retention. Do you know if that's COVID related, or is there something else? Do we know what it is, and how can we fix it? Because I love our students. I don't want them to go.
Yeah, no, it has trended down over the past, I don't know, I'm looking right back at, you know, or Mary. We've seen a sort of general decline. It's hard to unpack COVID from that, so, but I think it's real, and I think it should be an area of focus. It obviously has a financial implication, but that's not the reason for focus. We want our students to be successful here, and so I think we are kind of looking hard at, and you kind of have to get into, you know, you think about a 1% change in retention, that's a finite number of students, and so trying to figure out, okay, of those, how many chose to go to another university, how many weren't successful academically, what are the reasons for that? And I think you need to unpack that and then target those areas. And I'm sure that Rebecca will want to work with Faculty Senate to solve this problem. Anything else?
I'll ask a question.
Oh.
Afternoon, sir.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Miller. I'm with the Air Force ROTC. One of the things you talked about is honoring our past. And as my counterpart from the Navy, ROTC, points out, we have 217 commencements. Yet we're only 200 years old because of some of our wartime efforts from World War II or preceding classes. The legacy of the military service of RPI. And so I think it's important to recognize that. But as we talk about the future, where we're going in the future, is there an increased appetite to do research and development with the Department of Defense? Maybe even using new AI or quantum computing technology. And would you be able to talk to that?
Sure. Thanks for the question. And I do think many of us appreciate and value the role that the ROTC program has historically played at RPI. I mean, as a student here, many of my friends were in the ROTC program. I know it was a wonderful experience for them, not only in terms of what it taught them in the classroom and through the ROTC experience, but just the discipline that it instilled in them and carried forward. I had a lunch with an alumni, a very successful alumni who was part of the ROTC program, and he attributes his success in industry specifically to the experiences there. On the question of DOD, I'm remiss in pointing out that $40 million grant that we just won is a DOD grant. And that may be at least one of our largest DOD grants that we'll have received recently. So, one other thing I would mention is that we recently hosted Senator Kirsten Gillibrand on campus, and Senator Gillibrand has become very concerned about the workforce, the federal government workforce that has the capacity and understanding of cybersecurity issues to support the nation. And she has created a cybersecurity scholars program that her ultimate hope is that it sort of begins to look like the ROTC program, where folks can enter this program, get credentials and an education in cybersecurity, and then go to work in service of the US government. And she's implored us to submit an application to become one of the universities that can participate in that, which we're currently trying to do. Robert.
Maybe I could, just following on from the question about DOD support of our research, we receive over $10 million, well north of $10 million of research awards from DOD each year. As Marty says, that number will be substantially increased by this latest award and the follow-ons from it. You mentioned artificial intelligence, and we have a number of programs with DARPA in that area. In the areas of energy, in the areas of essentially off-the-grid communications and supplies. The DoD is a really, really major partner for us, and it's growing, and it's a wonderful complement to what the ROTC and others do here. So thank you for the question.
Thanks, Robert. All right, well, as much as I'd love to keep you squirming in your seat, well, it's relatively pleasant outside. Unless there are any final questions, I'm happy to invite us to adjourn. Okay, thank you all for being here.